Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for inviting me to take part in this discussion about an Australian Republic. I'd like to commend the ALP for taking the initiative to publicly discuss this most important issue of an Australian Republic. Thank you to Daniel White and the organisers of the LFAR and Australian Republic Group for organising this competition in Ballarat. The title of my talk is Democratise the Crown, Bring the Australian Crown Home. Let's imagine for a moment that we are in the year 2039. It's New Year's Day on the 100th anniversary. The same ceremony is replayed in Canberra each and every year on this, the first day of the calendar, but always with a new face to represent the people of Australia. Today, Jane Bloggs will be inaugurated as the President of Australia. She will serve for a term of 1 year. Jane was elected by the people of Tasmania. Before the election campaign, she loved to work as a teacher in one of Hobart's secondary schools. She will replace John, elected in New South Wales, who has served as Australia's head of state for the previous year. The two have already worked together over the last few months, and Jane is well prepared and ready for her new role. The debates and fierce arguments over the Australian Republic are now long gone. The monarchy is no more than history. Australians periodically elect a fellow citizen to serve as our head of state. By the year 2039, the Australian presidency has developed into a special and unique presence on the world stage. Australia is seen as a centre for innovation and excellence. We have passionate leaders in many fields. Australians are proud of our egalitarian spirit of a fair go, our history and our diverse people. The Australian presidency is a personification of that spirit. We don't accept second best. The ceremony to mark inauguration of the elected Australian president is brief. This is the one time of the year when for barely less than an hour the glass casing in Parliament House is lifted, a physical symbol for the democratic Australian crown, an antique gift given grudgingly to the people of Australia by the final British monarch, is placed on the President-elect to acknowledge her rightful place in the line of democratic succession. The monarchy is dead. Long live the Republic. Australia is a republic with a democratic crown. Now, back to 2015. That is one vision for an Australian Republic. The idea is that we remove the Queen, periodically elect an Australian to take her place as head of state, but then keep the Australian crown as a symbol of the Commonwealth. It may sound a little strange at first. The main problem is that most people think the monarchy and the crown are synonymous. When we think of the crown, most people can only imagine a British monarch, Queen Elizabeth II, as a personification of that crown. The nature of the crown has changed radically over the last 114 years since Federation. The crown has already undergone a complete transformation since the days of Queen Victoria, and this is only the beginning. Since the Statute of Westminster in 1931, the crown is divisible. The crowning right of the Commonwealth of Australia has its own unique status, separate and distinct from all the other divisible crowns. Each of the 6 states also has a crowning right of that particular state, respectively. Also note that the first wave of changes to the rules of succession has only just been completed last month with the passing into law of the Commonwealth Succession to the Crown Bill 2015. The Perth Agreement has set a precedent and cleared a path for a democratic Australian crown. You might say, so what? We're Republicans. As Australian Republicans, if we want to remove the monarchy from our system of government, we first need to understand the nature of the Australian crown. That is equally true for a Republican model that will do away with the crown on becoming a republic. The crown today is a symbol for the Commonwealth and the state. In the change from a constitutional monarchy to a republic, some things will be removed, some things will stay the same, and some things will be added. These 3 categories apply to every model for an Australian Republic. A simple way of visualising this framework for a change to a republic is to use the Venn diagram from set theory, just like on the board here. This first circle contains all of our system of government as a constitutional monarchy. That's the black circle here. The second circle contains all of our system of government as a republic. That's this blue circle. The two circles intersect, so there are three regions, A, B and C. In A, there is what we will remove on becoming a republic. All Republicans would agree that the monarchy and the Queen belong in A. Next, there is B, with the systems of government that will remain the same even in a republic. Lastly, we have C, where we add something new on the transition to a republic. All the models for a republic can be compared using this simple framework. The relative sizes of the three regions A, B and C will vary between models. You can even make a simple empirical comparison of models based on the proposed changes to the text of the Constitution. Take the model for the 1999 referendum as an example. In A, we have the number of words ruled through. In B is the number of words remaining unchanged. And C is the number of words that are underlined, the words added. In a comparison between models, a genuinely minimalist model will have the highest number in the B column and small numbers in A and C. This is an empirical way to categorise and differentiate models. Naturally, a model for a republic that proposes to remove much of our existing system, add a lot more and leave little unchanged is going to be a high-risk option. The Australian voting public is relatively conservative and adverse to risk. By and large, Australia has a very good and robust system of government. When we spend time arguing about the problems, we may forget this fact. But there are many countries in our region where people do not even have the basic freedom of expression to debate issues. I'm currently living in Southeast Asia. Imagine if Australian political cartoonists could be arrested on sedition, imprisoned and charged, all for drawing a satirical cartoon of the Prime Minister's wife. Well, it doesn't happen in Australia, but that kind of abuse of sedition laws does happen in some countries in this region. Australia does have a healthy liberal democracy and we do have a robust system of government. If Republicans talk about models, they will usually want to claim their model entails only minimal changes. Alternatively, they might try to bypass any discussion about models and employ right-wing identity politics to push a radical populist model over the line in a referendum. We will have to wait and see what the ARM have planned. Some Republicans are talking about abolishing the states. Other approaches to constitutional reform include working towards acknowledging local government and councils in a formal new tier of government in the Constitution. These proposals are radical. Abolishing the states and replacing the states with a large number of regional entities is a divide and conquer strategy that would remove many of the checks and balances of our system of government. It would also be a way to covertly privatise public assets administered by the states. Imagine how the state-managed health systems and hospitals would work if the states were abolished. The US Free Trade Agreement might be used to morph our medical system to a high-cost model similar to that found in the United States. Abolishing the states in a move to a republic could see a windfall for many special interests. My model for a republic is a Copernican model. So I will briefly explain what that means. The models from the Australian Republican movement and most Republican models all have one characteristic in common. They take our existing executive level of government with two people, the Queen and her representative, the Governor-General, and merge the two old roles into the one new role of a head of state for the Republic. Usually the Republican head of state will have the powers of the Governor-General. I don't need to remind people here about the reserve powers of the Governor-General. Elevating the Governor-General to head of state in a republic is also subconsciously affirming the old British values of class and monarchy. It is like saying that no Australian could possibly match the Queen. ARM models are running for second place in a two-horse race. They reek of cultural cringe. Copernicans think that ARM models are making a mistake by merging the Queen and the Governor-General into the one role of President for a republic. if we were to replace the Queen with periodically elected Australians to serve as head of state, all while keeping the Governor-General as the representative of the President in a republic, then we will solve many of the problems of the Republican movement. We could elect our head of state, and the elected President would only be a ceremonial head of state, just like the Queen. The elected President would not become a rival centre of power in the Republic. They would have no real power to threaten the Prime Minister. We could have the President appoint the Governor-General, but only on the advice of the Prime Minister, so that the Governor-General, with the reserve powers, can be personally selected by the Prime Minister, just as we do now. A Copernican model overcomes the division within Republicans over direct election versus appointment. We elect a ceremonial and powerless President in place of the Queen, while we continue to appoint the Governor-General who retains the reserve powers. A Copernican model is not really a new kind of model. We look at what is already there and test for false assumptions. Australia's system of government, as it is today, can be used as a baseline for a republic. With the ABC framework for comparing Republican models, in A, we remove the Queen, and in C, we periodically elect an Australian citizen to replace the Queen as our head of state for a fixed term of office. Little else needs to change. Almost everything in our existing systems of government would stay in B. We keep the Governor-General and the state governors as representatives of the President in a republic. Unfortunately, I'm coming close to the end of my 15-minute presentation, but there is so much more to discuss. So you might say, why keep the Crown, given its history and the abuses of power under its guise in the past? That is the most important point. There will always be power in society. The Crown and its history is a story of how absolute power of monarchs has become tempered and tamed by the checks and balances of democratic parliament and the constitutional monarchy up until now. The Crown symbolises the highest values of a people. In Old England, those values were based on a class system, on imperialism and the exclusion of others, on privilege, wealth and birth. That is what monarchy stands for. The first British colonies in Australia were for the outcasts of their class system, for convicts and rebels. And look at what we have achieved. Look at what our great leaders like Gough Whitlam have done to create a universal healthcare system and open up tertiary education to anyone who has the ability and passion to succeed. Our values are democratic. We defend the notion of giving people a fair go. You may not realise it, but the day when the divisible Australian Crown became a reality, the day of its birth, was the day when the Commonwealth of Australia declared war on Nazi Germany in 1939. The Australian Crown stands for liberal democracy, and it represents a will to protect and defend human rights. It stands for our values. It is a suitable symbol of our Commonwealth. Within the Australian Crown is a Mabo decision of the High Court. The Australian Crown includes a Bring Them Home report about the stolen generations. This is an Australian Crown under the Southern Cross. Australians can stand proud, side by side, shoulder to shoulder, with the men and women of the great republics like the United States of America with her Declaration of Independence. What do the recent changes in the rules for succession to the Crown tell us? It tells us that the old class-based values of the monarchy, of sexism and discrimination by religion, are so repugnant to modern democratic values that the UK government felt it needed to enlist the help of 15 foreign nations to make the changes. But the problem is in the nature of monarchy itself. My point about the Australian Crown is that it is rightfully ours. It is a suitable symbol of our states and Commonwealth. The Australian Crown can be a symbol of our liberal democratic values. The monarchy, the Queen, and royal family are imposters to the modern divisible crown. The values of monarchy are repugnant even to the UK Parliament. We can periodically elect an Australian to replace the Queen to serve as our head of state under the Australian Crown. Our democracy, our people, our systems of government with its checks and balances are superior to the monarchy. Australians are the rightful heirs and successors to a democratic Australian Crown. Ladies and gentlemen, it's time. It's time to bring the Australian Crown home. Thank you.